4/3 of what number is 64? What we're going to do is we're going to translate this sentence into math. So we have to know our terminology, such as of means times. We're not going to use the x because they would get confused with variables. So of is times. What number we're going to call n. Is always equal. So we're going to do a little translation exercise. So we say 4/3 of is times. We don't even need to write the little dot. Of what number? That would be n. See, this is assumed that they're multiplied together. Is equals 64. So do you see how we translated from English into algebraic? And now we have to use our algebra to get n by itself. N is multiplied by 4/3. So to disconnect it, we're going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal to get n by itself, which is the same thing as dividing by 3/4. Remember, dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. So we cross these out like this, and we get n equals 64 divided by 4 is 16. So I'm just going to take that into that and get 16 times 3 is 48. So 4/3 of 48 equals 64. Alright, let's try the next one. These are just translating into algebra, and then using our algebra skills we try to solve these. Okay, this one we're starting out with an improper fraction. So the first thing you want to do, of course we're going to translate. This would be times. What number would be n? Is equals. So the first thing we want to do when we copy this down is to make this improper. So 3 times 5 is 15 plus 1 would be 16/5 of what number? So it would be times n equals 48. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to multiply both sides to get n by itself by the reciprocal. And we get these cross out. 16 goes into 48 3 times. And we get n equals 15. And that's it. N equals 15. You can always check these out by saying 3 1/5 times 15, does it equal 48? Alright, here's another one. This one says what fraction, but don't let that scare you. You can still use n for your variable. Of is times 60 equals 48. Now we could put n 60 because that would be the order. N times 60, but we always write our coefficient first. So we write 60 times n. Just remember, 2 times 3 is the same as 3 times 2. Multiplication is commutative, so we can switch it around. Equals 48. And you're going to, if you don't get a fraction for an answer, well, it could be like 3/1, but typically it's going to be a fraction with 2 non-1 answers, 2 1 numbers. So divide by 60. The 60s cross out, we get n by itself, and we're going to reduce this, and it's going to be 12 goes into both of those, so it's going to be 4/5. So we did get a fraction, so n equals 4/5. So these are just solving equations, but solving equations are fairly new too, so that could be causing you problems. Remember, it was 60n, so we want to get n by itself, so we divide both sides by 60. This one is pretty similar. 4/2 of 220 is what number? This time the what number is at the end. It's after the equal sign. So change this, make it improper. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 would be 9/2 times 220 equals n. So this is just a simple multiplication problem. So 2 goes into 120 110 times. We take 110 times 9 and we get 990, and that equals n. So hopefully this helps you to do the problems. If not, we'll go over this in class. Let's hit a couple function problems. Functions, all you do is you're going to replace the x's by whatever is in the parentheses. So this is the function. It's telling you f of x, the function equals x squared minus 3. Instead of f of x, we're going to do f of negative 1. So we're going to replace all the x's with the number in the parentheses. So we get f of negative 1 equals negative 1 squared minus 3. And then you just keep simplifying it. Negative 1 squared would be 1 minus 3 will give you minus 2. And that's your answer. So you could say, just a little bit more formally, f of negative 1 equals negative 2. Let's do the last one. Okay, all we're going to do is we're going to replace all the x's with 2's. So it goes for all the x's. So we would say g of 2 equals, make sure I have the problem right. Okay, 2, I'm replacing that x with 2. All the x's get replaced. This would be 2 squared minus 3. We do inside the parentheses and we do exponents first. So we're going to do inside parentheses, so we get 4 minus 3. That would be 2 times 1. And we get an answer of 2. So g of 2 equals 2. So if you still have questions, we'll go over these tomorrow in class. So that's it for practice problems for lesson problem set 28.